This is old home week for me. I've been covering the digital disruption of media, of major media, especially since 1996. I started writing a weekly newsletter called Min's New Media Report that I'm sure none of you ever remember, but it was one of the first in the space to talk about this transition. So I've been watching it all along. I wish I could start this event by telling you a lot of good news. I wish I could, but I can't. The story of digital disruption for the last 20, 25 years, especially with traditional media, is one of decline and diffusion. As we know, media has given up its distribution, it's given up its ad revenue and its ad share, and it's given up its mastery over context to aggregators and redistributors. As we come into 2020, however, at least we are starting to see some trends peak, if not shift quite yet. For instance, the growth of the duopoly in market share of online advertising is leveling, at least. In 2019, according to eMarketer, Google's share of digital ad spend will fall from to 37.2% from 38.2% last year, while Facebook will slip slightly from 22.1% to 21.8%. The winner is not the rest of us, the rest of media. The winner is actually who? Amazon, which will have seen its ad revenue double from 4% to 8% share in just a year. And in fact, by the way, from all of our other coverage of the marketing side, I can tell you, you're going to get even more competition from other retailers who are also coming into the space and have decided they want to be publishers too and leverage their data and their mind share with consumers to turn their websites into ad revenue machines. And even on social, we see at best a leveling, maybe a reallocation. For instance, a couple of hello? Next slide. Want to load my deck? There we go. Okay. Many of you may have seen that the famous Mary Meeker, investment banker analyst Mary Meeker, put out her mega deck of 300 slides the other day. Just a few insights that really popped for us. Among the insights, time spent on social media appears to have peaked at about 2.4 hours per day, with growth plummeting to near zero in the last 2 years. We're also starting to see Facebook in mild decline just in a year, as are most of the messaging apps in particular. Less than a third of users are visiting Facebook every day. Note, however, that both YouTube and Instagram, the very visually driven platforms, are growing. And of course, Facebook is not giving up too much of its ad revenue because Instagram is picking up the slack. But we're starting to see, for instance, YouTube is now approaching Facebook in timeshare online. The duopoly, while it's still growing in terms of its ad revenue and share of market, or not its share of market, but it's actually growing in revenue. The other platforms are growing slightly faster. Facebook's growth now is being fueled principally by Instagram. But the outlook for paid media and direct, however, is at best mixed. Reuters Institute of Digital Media the other day put out a report about the state of paid media. And one of the things that they noted is that we are at a point in the US where about 16% of internet users are now paying for news in some form or another. But what's interesting about this is that after the legendary Trump bump, end of 2016, early 2017, that has leveled. So we haven't really seen growth there. And also the cohort of people who are paying for news and media online is quite narrow. The demographic is very well educated, very well heeled. So far, it still looks like a rather narrow group of winners here, including Washington Post and the New York Times. And beyond that, we're not seeing a lot of diffusion in the revenue. And in a paid media market, one of the problems is everybody's competing with Netflix. Other types of news and content are competing with entertainment, which simply draws the most money. All of which sets the stage for us As many of you know, I sent out a survey a number of days ago. I try to open all of these events by hearing from you, since these events, the Insider Summits, are really about peer-to-peer sharing. I want to start with your voices, level set some of the attitudes, some of the ideas that are coming into this event from you. So, for instance, I asked, what's the fastest growing revenue stream in the last year? I got I think what's always interesting in this summit about the response to this question is it's a wide range. And some of them are conflicting. But I'm not going to go through all of these. These decks will be online so that you can see them if you want to go back and refer back to them. I quote a lot of you in this deck. But everything from events to subscriptions to organic video to Google AMP, which some of you have seen a lot of good performance from, and OTT, which we'll be talking about on the third day of the summit in particular. In-stream video, branded and custom content, which we'll be focusing on tomorrow, but also and again, interesting that this attendee reported 20% gain, but the mix has moved substantially towards native custom content plays from straight advertising. Also, there is one of the things that I noticed, and we'll be talking about programmatic tomorrow, is very varied answers about programmatic. A number of people who feel that private marketplaces and programmatic guaranteed are growing revenues, but others are voicing disappointment with it. So it's interesting the ways in we're going to have to talk about the ways in which different companies and different publishers are implementing these and the different performance that they're seeing from these streams. And also sponsored content and video production. Affiliate sales, we'll be talking about this tomorrow too, the ways in which affiliate sales is starting to evolve and the ways in which changes in that ecosystem have forced publishers to rethink the ways in which they come at affiliate sales. I asked, what's the most disappointing revenue stream in the last year? Print, for a number of you. Though, interestingly, there are a couple who actually said that print is at least leveling, if not showing some signs of life and growth. Direct mobile, programmatic guaranteed. Again, several people think that programmatic guaranteed was not doing well for them. And off-platform revenue, we're going to be talking about this across, I know, in several conversations, me with my panel later this morning, but also we'll be talking tomorrow at length about distribution strategies and the different revenue that people are seeing from some of these platforms now. Digital advertising, legacy print holding up quite well. Slowest growth in private auctions, again, and also podcasting. I asked for the fastest growing and most promising distribution or audience development channel. And again, saw quite a range here, but YouTube, for many of you, we're going to be talking to several people tomorrow about YouTube and on the third day, on Saturday, about the video channel and how it's growing. But also a number of people, there's going to be some interesting discussion over the next couple of days, I think, about Google and search and the ways in which search algorithms are actually changing people's strategy and challenging a lot of brands, especially middle-tier content brands. Google AMP, I heard this a number of times, that Google AMP, especially in concert with organic search, has been a powerful driver. Social, again, we'll be talking about OTT and interestingly, some syndication relationships still doing especially well. One of the things that I heard across talking to a lot of you over the last couple of months, but also in these surveys, is a number of minor and relatively unknown distribution partners and apps that are starting to pop and show real performance, which is going to be an interesting trend to watch. Flipboard, for instance. Haven't heard about or from Flipboard for a while, but several people mentioned Flipboard as an area of growth for them. Also, we're going to have to be talking about Apple News. Social channels, Instagram. Experiential and event activation has gained momentum. We've talked about this in past summits. We didn't focus on it this time, but our event revenue, and especially attached to podcasting, has been an especially good growth area for a lot of publishers. I asked about the programmatic advertising business in particular, got a lot of a range of interesting answers to this one and how people are implementing programmatic. Again, we'll be drilling a lot into this tomorrow. But the idea that programmatic guaranteed has worked for a lot of publishers. The idea and the ability to package this across into other pieces of the inventory and either have training salespeople to sell this more effectively as a part of a package deal or to combine programmatic and direct. Again, and some of these private marketplaces, overall yield and eCPMs, OTT and video. Sales team, and again, as I mentioned, sales team and education, being able to integrate direct and programmatic selling has seemed to become more effective, and we're at a stage where now that's happening a lot more effectively. I asked about what's the biggest challenge or obstacle you face in increasing company revenue. This was an interesting series of and again, a great range of diagnoses of what the key challenge is. Everything from less allocation to publisher direct to cookieless future and data privacy concerns. We'll be talking about that on day 3. We're going to be talking about that directly. And the time suck of some of these programs. In fact, I hear this a lot in talking to publishers. And we'll be talking to some degree about this tomorrow with branded content. The amount of time and effort it takes simply to put some of these more lucrative advertising programs together that really distinguish especially marquee brands from others. Scaling network of site. Streamline reporting internally, and content discovery and audience retention. Again, I'll put this deck online so you can see this. Again, and this sort of drafts off of the other point, the pressure to be innovative and the ways in which advertisers are really putting pressure on publishers to come up with something innovative. And again, tie that back to the previous example. How can you do that at margins and really make money off of those programs, really than simply being fancy case studies that you can show off about how creative you are. Keeping up and managing various opportunities available to us. We'll be talking some degree about this as well across the next few days, about managing all of those distribution relationships and how it's being handled internally and how you make those choices. And again, and this actually is one of the themes that we'll pick up this morning in our opening panel, which is how you actually manage all of those multiple revenue streams that everybody's chasing. I asked about the oligopoly and attitudes about it. It's interesting the range that I saw of those who feel that yes, it needs to be broken up. Yes, obviously it's the major threat, but how do we handle it? And I got a range from yes, let's go ahead and do it, to no, it's just going to create more problems for the rest of us, and it's going to be hard either to break them up or to heavily regulate them. So anyway, that is the, I just wanted to take the temperature, get a sense of, and bring out some of the discussions. You'll be hearing more of this in the roundtable. A few notes. For those of you who are new to the Publishing Summit, how many of you have not been here before? Okay. Let me give you a quick rundown of the summit rules and the basic spirit of our summits. Everything that we put on stage is being live streamed. It's on the record. We report on it. We blog on it. We archive it. We'll report on it afterwards. If you have colleagues back at the home office you want to ping to tune in, do so. If you go to the main site page, you'll get a link to the live stream, and they can view it at home. And we'll be posting the videos for most of these sessions probably by the end of the day or tomorrow morning, so you can reference them right away, also most of the decks. When we come off stage at noon for the roundtables, then we're off the record. And the idea of these roundtables, and I can't urge you enough to take part in these roundtables. They are the heart of our summits. It's where the content on stage really becomes conversations, where you really get to talk about how this stuff relates to you, what your challenges are, and share ideas. So I urge you, don't run out and take that phone call at noon or go back to the room and do a bit of work. The heart of this really is the roundtable. These discussions really resonate throughout the day. And today, our focus really here is on, and now moving forward for publishing, is data-driven content and data-driven publishing. And what does that mean? As data starts moving more deeply into organizations, as we start seeing the ways in which data can inform not only the ad picture, but audience segmentation, audience gathering and distribution, and also, of course, editorial. That's the project that Mike Smith is doing. Our keynote speaker today is the Chief Data Officer at Hearst Magazines. I think many of you are familiar with Mike. He has been a fixture at Hearst for a number of years as the Chief Operating Officer, but now his job is to put data at the center of a publisher. What does that mean when we start seeing data informing all aspects of the business, from the ways in which it's putting together its audience segmentation to how it's putting together its ad packages, but also how it's informing editorial. As I said, Mike has been at Hearst for a number of years as the Chief Operating Officer. His task now is to pull a massive number of brands together into a centralized data hub that can serve all of those interests. Please welcome Mike Smith.